How would you keep your family warm during a power outage? And what if you could reduce your heating bill to zero? That's why I decided to build this rocket mass heater. With the help of Bob Baxley and Ira Houseweart, two fellow YouTubers, I was able to complete this project. The results will amaze you, and at the end I share how much I spent on this project. Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Stefano Creatini. We're going to be building a wood fireplace here using the rocket mass principle with a little batch heater, so called rocket mass batch heater. Here we're taking out this junky pellet stove and we're going to be building here. We're going from this to this. So we're installing with the help of my buddy Bob. He's a master tradesman.
Let's talk about how the system is so efficient. So the firebox is like any other wood stove, except this time it's double insulated. So we're getting hotter temperatures just on the firebox. And what's unique about this rocket mass heater is we have a secondary air intake that combines the exhaust from the firebox with cold air. And that causes a secondary burn. And that secondary burn is burning over 1200 Fahrenheit. As it's hitting the heat riser, it creates this vortex working its way up. And at the top of this superheated air, it starts hitting the concrete and all the mass that we have up there, and it starts cooling down. So the cooling down motion brings the hot gases down. And then this is an open system. So the air is able to freely move around the entire chamber. And so as it's coming down, cooling down, it hits the bench level and spreads out. That heat is in the top layer. And as it's dissipating its heat on the bench level, it starts cooling down and cooling down. And then once it's reached its coolest point, it gets sucked up by the flute, because that's where the opening is for the flute, is at the bottom of the system. So as air cools down, it gets sucked up. And what's unique about my system with the flute is that the hot air is touching the flute. So as the cold air is getting drawn up, it gets heated by the flute, and then it heats and then causes even more of a draw. So it starts pushing the air throughout this entire system through it. What makes this so unique is you get a full complete burn, and then you have the mass to absorb all that. So it's way more efficient. In a standard wood stove, you're sending out 75% of your heat out the flute, versus something like this, you're pushing 80% total efficiency of all the heat. And there are ways to improve it, but there's trade-offs.
So we're headed with Bob into the crawl space. We're jacking up one of the joists to be able to handle all this much weight. It's actually gonna be an easier job than we thought. We're not gonna have to open up the subfloor. The first step we had to do was secure the joists. So we were adding anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of material above that. So that is just way too much just to put on wood joists. So we got in the crawl space. Bob had a clever idea by putting timber framing underneath on top of some pavers, and that created a great support system to be able to handle the weight, and it was done very quickly without having to open up the floor. Bob had these timbers lying around, so he brought them over, and it was actually pretty simple to do. It only took us maybe 45 minutes to get everything done, from measuring, getting down there, crawling in there, and putting it all together.
Cool beans, man.
All right, so we're down in the basement. So this is it. The first step Bob and I had to do was get rid of this junky old pellet stove. It worked great, but it doesn't add any resilience to our farm. And if there's ever a power outage, that would cause massive issues for us keeping our house warm, just from a survival point of view, as well as causing the pipes to freeze in our house.
The nice thing about this mortar is, because it's just clay and sand, there's not a chemical reaction that causes it to cure. It's just drying. So we can mix this 4-gallon batch and just cover it when we're done for the day, and it will remain viable until it dries out. So as long as it's either covered with a layer of water or a lid, it'll remain good.
And this is what the final consistency should look like.
Yeah, you need it to be able to be workable, but you want it to hold on to your tools.
Here we're day 2. We're about to start setting some bricks.
once we had the first layer set up, the next important thing was to create an insulation barrier. So in order to do that cheaply, we used perlite with fire clay and mixing those two until we got it workable with water. And that creates a nice insulation barrier. It ended up being about almost 2 inches thick. And that just ensures that the subfloor doesn't get too hot and create a fire. So there I was, just spreading it, getting it. This was a pretty easy step. And another important thing to keep in mind, the plans that we have didn't dictate how many bags of clay you needed. And for our entire project, we ended up using 3 bags of fire clay. We'll put links down below where I got some of it, and you might be able to find fire clay in a fireplace masonry store near you. Mine was about an hour and a half away, and I was able to find bags between 50 to 125. And I bought one on Amazon until I found out that there was a local place. So just shop around, see what works best for you. So once the perlite was set in place, the next step is building the bridge that the tower is going to sit upon. So we used angle iron on this, cut so that it rests upon the bricks. And you can see, oh, there we go. Yep. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And then we would put other bricks on top of it. So super important. So once we had the bridge layer set up, the next important part was getting ready to build the burn chamber. And in order to do that, we first had to get the door built. So we went to Ira Houseweart's blacksmithing shop. He is one of the world's best blacksmiths. We are fortunate to have him here local. And we told him what we were trying to do, and he was all about it. He's won History Channel's Forged in Fire 2 times. Here, he's a local legend, and he said, yeah, of course, I'll help out. And so he did us a great favor, and he's got all the tools and experience to make the door. I would definitely work with a machinist to get this done, a metal shop near you. They made quick work of it. I think we were done within an hour from beginning to end, and it was a lot of fun to see how a professional works metal. Ira's got his own YouTube channel, and he's crushing Instagram, so I will put links down below for his content as well. And it was crazy seeing his shop, 5 guys working metal. It was like a pirate ship, maybe something like Mad Max, where they were getting ready to create something cool and take over the world. While Ira was working the door, the collection caught on fire.
There's a fire.
A fire burning inside, you can see. So just another day in the pirate ship here for these guys. One important feature on this door is the 2-inch bracket that goes around the door, and that just protects the ceramic fiber board as you're loading wood into the firebox. And having the right tools gets this job done. This is why I'd recommend. They had all the plasma torches, experienced welding to knock this out fairly quickly. Ira was able to take old door hinges, put them in the forge, and make them workable again, and to be part of this door. So it was awesome to see how materials could be worked. And I have no experience about blacksmithing, but it was amazing to see him doing work like this was nothing.
Yep.
So the final step in the process of the door was building the handle, and that required creative thinking. It wasn't quite clear on the plan, so Ira was able to come up with a unique handle for us that didn't get in the way of the bricks.
This is the only. All right, so here we are with Bob. We are starting to assemble the burn chamber. We measured all the parts, and we're going to start cutting and assembling this bad boy together.
That's back and one of the sides. Okay. Inner front, floor, port, and top. Front, back, base. 2 tunnel sides. The other side, inner back, and the tunnel floor.
Ceramic fiberboard has a consistency of styrofoam, so it's fairly easy to cut.
Cuts it like butter.
The dust is very toxic, so just make sure to have the right protection. And so we were able to get it around the door, cut everything to spec. And super important, the way this door works is that we have 2 air sockets coming in. We have one for the secondary combustion chamber in the heat riser, and that's where you get your hot temperatures to burn with that increased cold air coming in. And then you have air coming through the glass and feeding in the primary fire. Once we figured out where we wanted to build the door, the next step after that was putting angle iron to be able to support the door onto the bricks. So first we had to assemble the firebox, and then after that we had to figure out exactly where the angle iron is, get that in place. Attaching the door is very critical here, and you need to have masonry screws to connect the metal to the brick, and that's what your door is going to be anchored with, so fairly important. The mix that we did on the ceramic fiberboard was just water and clay, and we used that as a slip to create an airtight seal. And as the system heats up and gets fired for the first time, it creates basically an impenetrable layer. Bob had a great idea and a few modifications. Instead of using ceramic fiberboard that gets eaten up, we used refractory bricks that could tolerate getting scraped by wood as we're loading it up. And so that just increased the durability of the system. I wish we had put more on the bottom and on the back channel because that's starting to wear out. So definitely if you can put some kind of protection on the ceramic fiberboard of where anything where wood is going to touch, it's just going to make the system last a lot longer.
That was the perfect size.
And once the firebox was built, we were able to start going up on the tower riser. So that was awesome to see. We were able to accomplish so much fairly quickly. And then we were ready for the heat riser. The heat riser was great because you don't have to cut anything when you order the parts like I did on Amazon. They come sized to spec, so we don't have to cut anything. So a little clay slip and a little stainless steel wiring to keep it together, and it was ready to be put on. And this is the magic of this system, is the insulated heat riser. It allows the fire to burn to those high degree temperatures, 1200 Fahrenheit. So it combusts everything, meaning you have a complete burn. There's no pollution. You have CO2 and water coming out the back end, and it keeps the system clean. You don't have creosote getting built up in the system. So maintenance is accomplished fairly easily on this. You just have to keep the temperature of the fire hot enough. One of the final steps is getting the concrete built, the concrete slabs that are going to be our top piece. I wanted to go for a black look on this, and I got some black concrete, but it ended up just turning the concrete into a light blue. So we learned a lot from that system. We built the frames with melamine and some rebar in the middle, and we just poured that up. We used a vibrating sawzall to squeeze out any air bubbles. Fairly important that you do that, otherwise it can create additional excessive cracking. And the final step on the tower was cutting the brick so that we could put ceramic fiberboard on top. If the flame from the heat riser went directly into the concrete, it would break it fairly quickly. It's important to use some kind of insulation on the top layer. As you guys are seeing, Bob built most of this. He's a master craftsman and has a ton of experience working with concrete, with masonry, so I was able to learn a lot and feel fairly confident I could build one of these now on my own. We used the same mortar mix, setting up the concrete to put them in. We had to finish the tower, so that was the last step before we could pour in all the slabs. Bob and I here are positioning in the concrete. We didn't do the best job measuring the flute and where we put it in on the concrete, so we ended up having to move the bricks, and so it has a little slight look. It gives it character, but if we could do it again, I would have measured the concrete countertop a little bit better. So finishing the door, we had to insulate it. We use the last of the ceramic fiberboard to insulate the door so we can get a very hot firebox. The key is getting this system very hot. And we were able to put in the final concrete slab. And here's Bob doing the final cleaning, making it look all nice and pretty for us on camera. Thank you, Bob. Using the remaining bricks that we had, Bob built a landing so we could just store wood inside the house and have a few days of supply just ready on hand.
We're near the final stages, just one last final connection.
The food system was in place and we were ready to get this thing fired up.
So Bob has finished the stove. We're gonna give it a first test burn. Let's see how this baby goes. So we've been testing the stove out for over 20 hours, más o menos, right now. And I'm gonna show you all the temperatures that we got. This thing is radiating a lot of heat, and I have not used that much wood. Let's see how hot we are in the back of what we can see. Over 966 Fahrenheit. If we hit the center of the burn chamber, it just goes to high. So we're over 1,000, which is crazy hot. That's burning every gas that this fire is emitting. So you actually don't smell this wood fire at all. 160. We are cooking hot, folks. And then let's see what kind of temperature the exhaust. 184 on the way out. All right, so there you have it. This is our wonderful rocket mass heater. This thing keeps our house warm, and the magic is obviously in that heat chamber where we're burning everything to complete combustion. There are a few issues with the system and a lot of things I want to let you know about in case you are actually going to build something like this. One, the biggest mistake we made is building too close to the wall. It's been heating up the back wall to 200 Fahrenheit, which is a big no-no. So we ended up having to, as ugly as it looks, put in an aluminum backing, the reflective, and that keeps the temperature within reason. The other thing we run is a small little fan that just blows air behind this, and it just keeps it completely clean. Now, if power went out, would this aluminum work? Yes, so it's enough, but I just like to even extract more heat and push it out the back so it stays within the house. Now, another flaw in this system is I did not build this in the center of the house. This is on one of the exterior walls, so we're losing an incredible amount of heat just to the exterior. If I were gonna rebuild this again, I'd put this in the center of the house. One other flaw is that I would have built the bench bigger. This bench needs to be longer so it can absorb all that heat. The other thing that I would do differently with this system is use fire brick throughout the whole entire chamber, not ceramic fiberboard, because the wood is eating into it. Even on the divider between the heat riser and the burn chamber, that is getting eaten up, it's starting to thin up. So we're even talking about putting some tile, if it can tolerate the temperatures, in there to rearm this. We're able to heat our house virtually with zero expenses. So one of the big questions people might be asking is how much did the system cost? So in materials just for this system, back here with 3 boxes of clay, the fiberboard, and the brick, we spent $1,400. So that is almost half the cost of a conventional wood stove, like a Mr. King, like a high quality stove. The metal flute and all that going through the roof ended up costing us a little bit more than that. So close to like $1,500 just for that. So it was actually more expensive, the tubing, to get outside the house with the triple insulated than the rocket mass heater. The efficiency burn on something like this, you're using anywhere from 50 to 70% less wood just because of the complete burn. Overall, I'm fairly happy with the system. I recommend it. I'll put links down below to everything. And a big shout out to Bob and Ira for helping me build this. I'll put their links down below. Hope you guys got a lot of value out of this video and how we built this amazing batch rocket mass heater. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.